been implicitly sort of, you know, named online. So
And this was the accusation from two children, and we'll get to sort of how that comes about, that there was this terrible act, these terrible acts taking place in the community. There was a video of two children which went viral around the world. Ella Draper, the mother of the two children who made these initial allegations, and her boyfriend Abraham, the children say that they were coerced into making these allegations. Though that was the video that you were able to see at this point, or was that not out there yet?
Yes, it was one of the coercive videos where, in fact, it was an odd one because it was a third party. It wasn't Abraham or Ella in this one instance, but she was being, Ella's daughter was being coached by a third party to name, and he said, does this happen to anybody else? And she said, yes, my friend, and named my child, and then he said, well, who's doing this? And she then named myself as my husband and various other parents and teachers as being the abusers.
I mean, how did that feel, seeing that?
It was complete shock, you know, heart-stopping moment. I could not believe what I was hearing.
Because presumably you recognise these children?
Absolutely, yeah. I knew straight away that, you know, it was my daughter's classmate. And I had right from that get-go, I had a very good sort of, you know, reason to think that it was Ella and her partner Abraham at the time that were behind the coercion and the root of the children's allegations. So yeah, heart-stopping moment. I mean, you know, to receive that email and literally within 10 minutes not only discover what the allegations were, but, you know, to then discover that you're part of the centre of that allegation was, yeah, unbelievable.
And you got in touch with the police?
I did. I called the school. I spoke to the headmistress and was advised by her that, you know, she had been advised if any parent were to contact her that, you know, she was to say that we should contact the police, which I did straight away. You know, we'd been accused of something completely wrong, and it seemed, you know, I followed that advice and said, I don't really know how to explain this, but we've been accused of being paedophiles. And, you know, unfortunately for our family, we weren't given much choice to sort of keep our child sheltered from that, because they literally said, well, the police are on their way, you've got 30 minutes to tell her. And they came to the house and didn't afford us the opportunity for her to be separated from us while we explained what had gone on. And then the police officer said, oh, you know, took my husband into the kitchen and said, oh, don't worry, we've satisfied ourselves, you know, that your child is safe and we won't be taking her away from you tonight.
And I should say at this point, because I think it's very important to say if people have never come across this story before, that all police investigations came to nothing. There was nothing found, it was all dropped, but there is a whole other life to this because of then what happens with what goes on online. Let me bring in Emily at this point, give you a moment to catch your breath. It mustn't be easy to talk about this. Emily, why did you want to look at this story and put it together? It's an in-depth film and people will have it all in front of them.
I was actually working in Hampstead at the time and was given a leaflet by somebody pamphleteering in the area and said, did you know there's a satanic paedophile cult operating in the area? And so it's always been a story that I was aware of from then. And I sort of thought, well, there must be something in this, and so got in touch and I made contact with a woman who had developed a website looking into the hoax and sort of putting all of this incredible information out there. She said to me, well, actually, this is a slightly more important story than you think it is. I think you need to speak to the mums. And so she introduced me to the four of them. And I think it was really over lockdown that we were sort of seeing so much of these conspiracy theories really taking hold. And I know certainly when QAnon was going on and the Pizzagate thing that went on in America, I know that a lot of traffic was being redirected back towards Hampstead. So despite the sort of lurid and quite frankly ridiculous allegations that were being made, this was something that really had a grip hold in terms of the online community. And so it was after speaking to the mums I thought, actually, this isn't a silly, ridiculous story. This is something that's had huge,
real world impact.
Exactly.
Because I started to introduce there the two individuals, Ella Draper and her boyfriend Abraham. Ella Draper had been involved in a long custody battle for her two children. It's an important part of the backstory to this. And she also claimed that the father of her two children that she was fighting in court and for this custody battle was also part of this satanic paedophile ring. So you know, in a classic sense, you've got a motive there in some ways. And those two children were taken into care.
Yeah. Yeah, and a High Court judge, as part of that custody ruling, did an investigation into this case and ruled, kind of, I think her words were, that this is absolutely baseless, and anybody who perpetrates these lies is evil and all foolish. Justice Paul Flea announced, and actually, instead of setting the record straight, that actually inadvertently poured fuel on the fire, because I think these people thought, well, the cover-up is endemic, the courts are involved.
It's spread to the courts, because that's, I mean, and that's the thing, for those listening again to this, Anna, coming new to it, and it's not new to you, sadly, you might just think, well, once it's been closed, case closed, can't you just move on at this point? But it carried on, didn't it?
Absolutely. As Emily said, it fueled the fire. Justice Paul Flea's report fueled the fire. I think a lot of the people in the conspiracy world are very much of the belief that the family courts are secret, not that they're, closed and behind closed doors for privacy,
Yes.
confidentiality, that the courts are secret, and they're taking children away from their families in order to feed to the sort of elite paedophiles within the justice system and the parliamentary world. So it fueled their fire.
And a list of names, of the children's names, were put online with their addresses.
That's correct. And really, lots of people might say, well, why would you fight back against all of this? And I think the real difference for us was that you're correct. There were two class lists from Ella Draper's daughter's class and from her son's class, which were published at the hands of Sabine McNeill, alongside Ella.
Sabine McNeill is another, I don't want to say character as if it's a fake story here, but another person within this who was actually charged with harassment because of the part she played in the conspiracy.
Correct. But, so what we had were all of these allegations, but our names, our addresses, our children's names in full, our full home addresses, our telephone numbers, our email addresses, everything that you might have on a very innocent class list in order to arrange a play date had suddenly been published online, alongside of all of the allegations. So all of a sudden you have people believing that you are abusing your children, and they're wanting to come and rescue those children from us. So people were coming off of the internet. It became real world harassment. We had people coming to the school, coming to the church every Sunday, police officers undercover on our school gates on drop off and pick up for weeks on end, and we were literally watching people on Facebook saying, well, I've got a truck and I can be in Hampstead tomorrow, and why don't we just sort of come en masse and rescue the children? And our names and addresses, the children's names and addresses, are online. So it's not just as simple as shutting the laptop and thinking, well, why don't we just ignore it?
What effect did this have on you? Has it had on you?
At the time it was horrific, and for many years afterwards it was horrific. This abuse just grew, and it was just it was every day, it was relentless, and every time any material, we were successful in taking that material down, it was like whack-a-mole. Somebody would have saved it, our names and addresses, and they would repost it, and it never sort of really died down. It was just incessant for a number of years. And it's still there, and it's the fabric of our lives, and the internet never really forgets. And although we've been successful in a lot of the takedown, there will always be somebody that wants to repost it, and it's never really truly going to go away. There'll always be a save.
Is that how you feel?
Yeah.
Do you still, I know we're not doing anything about your identity, but do you still live in the area? Have you been able to carry on in the way that you were before in some ways?
I think it's taken a long time to sort of regain some peace, if that's the right word. And I live not a million miles away from the area, but I think our children now are a lot older. This did take place 9 years ago. They're all healthy, happy, well-adjusted adults who are now living their lives and getting on with going to university and college, etc., as they should be doing. So.
Which is, I suppose, the goal when you're fighting something.
Yes.
As awful as this. Talking of happy and healthy adults, you interviewed and he was featured in the documentary, agreed to be part of it. A man I referred to in my introduction, Rupert Wilston Quaintance, who came from America. Is that right? Fundraised some money, came from America to come to the school gates to figure out what was going on, and was actually jailed for harassment.
Yeah, that's right. Rupert was a YouTuber and kind of had a level of sort of internet celebrity, and posted a reaction video to the children's original videos. and sort of was quite bombastic and said things like, I'm going to go, someone needs to investigate, I'm going to come over and have an investigation. And he was able to crowdsource thousands of dollars to come over and got on a flight. And
what was he like when you met him? Because he reacts very strongly at one point to your questioning.
yeah, I think it was easier to get him to do the interview than you'd have thought. He was quite keen to talk, quite keen for the record to be put straight, and that he feels it's sort of all been a sort of enormous overreaction.
But did he admit that there were no satanic paedophile rings, that when he came to find out what he came to find out?
He's pretty evasive about really sort of battling the truth of this matter. It's really unclear as to whether he truly believes that the world is controlled by satanic paedophiles or if it's something he's happy to be part of for the sort of notoriety. But Sabine, who's also in the film, sort of falls into the other camp of the people around this story, and she's an ardent and sort of fervent believer that this is the way that things are, and that, you know.
But that's a bigger picture, isn't it? I'm not reading anything in the film here. You're telling a story and you're putting it together. That's whether they think the world is controlled. But did he specifically came to Hampstead?
Yeah.
He couldn't have found, because it isn't there, what he was looking for. Has he admitted that?
He just wouldn't be pinned down. It was a bit like talking to a politician trying to get an answer about some policy. It was something else was thrown at me, but it wasn't fair, and I was just coming, and it was tourism. But we know that he had the parents' addresses and details on a laptop in his computer when he came over.
Yeah, it's just, I suppose when you do get those opportunities to have someone in front of you, you know, trying to understand what they think it's hard, and he does react also quite badly, as I say, to you doing your best to get some answers. And the other striking thing for those who are listening who might be thinking, well, what happened to the original Ella Draper and her boyfriend Abraham?